everybody. Yep, it's Wednesday. Welcome to the Witches Movie Coven. Grab your goat, grab a drink. But don't grab your blanket. It's just too hot outside. Save that for a couple of months. And let's talk movies with us, or as in today's case, television. Today's movie is American Horror Story, Coven, of course. And I am Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves today. Heather.
Well, I was just adjusting my camera, which fell, but hi, I'm Heather Greene, and I am the author of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which is a study and look at witches in movies and television from the early 1900s, from Hollywood's birth till today. And so I look at the representation of magic, witchcraft, and witches. Oh, and Courtney has my books. Thank you. I'm also a practicing witch and a journalist. And what else? I don't know. Some other things. A mother. I don't know. Lots of titles, lots of hats, and a Gemini.
Yeah. So, and Courtney.
That's me. I am Courtney Buckley. I am a lot of things as well. I work in Salem, telling people about Salem history. So I love especially that there's scenes in this movie that I can talk about tonight. Or not movie, but show that I can talk about tonight. Having to do with that. I am Ghostbait on Scared and Alone. I am a practicing witch. I'm not very good at it. I am not the Supreme. I'll tell you that much. And I stream horror games on Twitch. You can find me on the Themes on Twitch, and I will be doing that later tonight as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Richard-Lael.
Yes, that is right. I am Richard-Lael. That is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I'd be it. Anyway, I will say that I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I am currently getting ready to move down south to New Orleans, and I have a slight bone to pick with Disney for stealing my look, but we'll get into that a little bit later, maybe. Maybe we'll do it right now. Anyway, the Haunted Mansion, Daniel Levy steals my look. Not this particular one,
True.
But I watched the thing, and I went, oh my goodness, that fellow with that handsome mustache and the tilted hat and all in black, he looks very familiar. Oh, right. Psychic, medium, ghost hunter, paranormal expert, Haunted Mansion. Oh, yeah. I wonder who that was inspired by.
You know, imitation is the highest form of flattery, Richard-Lael.
That is very true.
That is very true. So there
That
you
is
go.
very true.
It's even better when it comes with a check.
That's exactly.
All right. I'm Jason.
I'm Jason. I'm the prodigal son. Had 2 weeks off. I've missed being here so much. I've written 9 witchcraft books and edited a 10th, which just came out. I'm a practicing witch, and like Courtney, sometimes I don't think I'm a very good one either, but there's no right or wrong way to do all of this. I'm so excited to be here tonight talking about one of my least favorite television shows of all time. Oh, yes! Shots have been fired from the start. Shots have been fired.
How are you going to come back after 2 weeks like that? We maybe have to replace you.
You know what?
No.
Okay.
I have to say, Jason, I'm on your side on this one. I actually loved the first season, the first couple of seasons. By season 4 or 5, I was so over it. And this is one of the ones that I never watched this season because I was just so over it.
Oh, you guys. Okay, well, this is going to be a fun one. Again, thank you, everybody. Again, I'm Patti Negri. I, too, am a practicing witch, but I'm good because I put that in my title. Good. You might know me from The Witching Hour, my podcast with the same producer who is here, and everything else. So let's talk Coven. I had only watched little bits of it way back when. It's like, oh, the Stevie Nicks episode or this or that, and I watched almost the whole thing in this past week in the wee hours of the night. Who wants to? Oh, Heather, do you want to give us? Is this in your book? Is this something that's not in your expert? It is. Okay.
No, it is. It's an American TV show. It definitely fits in, and I do talk about it. There's so many things that this episode that we could talk about. It is chocked full of pieces. I don't even know where to even begin on so many levels, whether we're talking about, it hits so many points. It hits the point of depiction of witchcraft as something that is distinctly part of the feminine and female agenda, cause, psyche, oppression. It hits all of those points in sometimes in canned ways and sometimes in new ways. It hits on witchcraft being a function of, or magic being a function of oppression, with the representation of race, hitting that hard and not backing down from that discussion. It gives us history. It gives us representations of voodoo. It gives us representations of Black witches that are not othered. It also gives us a lot of social and cultural things like Stevie Nicks and wearing black. And I mean, there's just so much. And then, of course, all of the witchcraft iconography that it hits. It hits the snakes. It hits the voodoo dolls. It hits the talking boards. There's so much that is done that's packed into this that we could have 5, 6, 10, 15 episodes on this, in my opinion. But in terms of context of when this was released, we're looking at a TV show that was released at the pinnacle or the beginning of when witchcraft movies and films were once again popular. So it's the third wave. So the first wave, again, if you've read my book or have listened to me talk here, 1970s, you had the first wave. 1990s, second wave. 2010s is the third wave. And it parallels upheaval in our country, political, cultural. Think of the BLM movement. Think of the Women's March. Think of all the stuff that was happening by 2012, 2013. So you have that happening. This show hits the mark there. You have Salem. You have Beautiful Creatures. You have a number of witchcraft films and TV shows that are reinventing our history, that are re-examining our history, re-examining the stories we tell each other. Here is a story that's reinventing Salem's history. Here's a story that's reinventing and re-examining our racist history of America and also New Orleans history. So that's what a lot of these witchcraft films are. They were taking what we know about witchcraft, about America, about history, about our stories, our folklore, and just throwing it up in the air and re-bringing it together to reinvestigate. So it's a really important TV show in terms of witchcraft films and culturally. So I keep saying film, TV show. And on top of that, I think this one and Salem and several of the others were some of the first TV shows that really got horror done really well as a TV show. That didn't happen in the past. Most horror TV shows were pretty pathetic. This is not. So I'll leave it there and let's discuss. There's so much we can talk about in this TV show.
Okay. Anybody want to go first?
Me.
Okay, Courtney, go.
Okay. So I'm a huge fan of American Horror Story. I watched it when it came out, as it was coming out, so week to week. When the first season came out, I remember I couldn't decide if I liked it at first or if I was just like, it was like watching like a train wreck almost, because I couldn't believe that they were putting this on TV. And then because of how like horrifying it was. And then I also couldn't believe that the person who created that is the same person that created Glee. So I could not calculate that in my mind. So I didn't know for several episodes if I liked it or not. But as I think it was Haley said in the comments there, like it's such a cool concept that they use the same actors and every season is a different story. And then there's little bits that weave in and out, you know, that kind of connect them. So as a whole, I love American Horror Story. This was not my favorite season. I have a lot of, I think that it was really like the cast, it's like a powerhouse. Like the cast was great.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. There
Best
was
part.
definitely points and stories that were told within this season that were fantastic. I also, I've spoken about this before, how much it irks me when films or TV use the Salem trope and get it wrong, like really wrong. This, to me, there was some bits and pieces to that irked me, but on the whole, they changed it enough and made it part of their own story enough that I felt like, all right, you know, it's a twist on history, so that didn't bother me a lot. But I do feel like after a certain point in time, like this was 13 episodes long, and maybe watching it week to week, I don't remember how I felt when I was watching it week to week. I think I liked it better because watching it, like binge watching it, it was a lot of the same thing over and over again throughout the whole season. It was Fiona trying to kill somebody. It was this person trying to kill somebody. It was, you know, then the Axeman came in, and that was a whole, like, that was interesting, and that was a whole new thing, you know. And I know, you know, they got a lot of the history wrong, and I know that, you know, there was a lot to that too. I did enjoy seeing, you know, some of the New Orleans history in their interpretation of it. But again, it was the same thing over and over again through 13 episodes. I also have to say that I have a contrary opinion to what a lot of people online feel. My favorite season of all time, and I'm interested to hear all of you guys, if you've seen the show throughout, what your favorite season is too, and in the chat. My favorite season of the whole series was Roanoke. So this was very different from Roanoke, I feel like, and so I think it just didn't capture me, and this came right after Asylum, and Asylum was so good in my mind that this just didn't hit. Yeah, it didn't hit the, like, they had set the bar. AHS had set the bar with the first 2 seasons, and this just did not, for me, hit the bar in the right way.
Ryan Murphy and the whole American Horror Story thing always starts really, really well. The first couple of episodes grab you, you're hooked, and let's be honest, the cast is the best part of all of these seasons, I think, really. But by episode 4, they kind of lose the plot, and they like, the story could probably be told in maybe 6 episodes, and it just stretches on and on and on, and all these characters in every season of the show just kind of show up, and then they disappear, and there are plot threads thrown out, and you're like, wow, that could be really interesting, and it's solved in 20 minutes, and then they forget about it or something. The storytelling, I think, in all of these shows is not what I want it to be. The ideas at the beginning are great, but they never quite stick the landing. And I'm kind of like Richard-Lael. I liked the first couple seasons, and I watched, even though I think all of those criticisms are valid at the start. But after a while, I just kind of gave up on it because I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere that I was going to find interesting. And I think American Horror Story, out of all of the seasons, really suffers from that the most, which I will talk about later.
I think to that point too, like you just said, they could wrap it up in like half the amount of episodes. Well, they did that in double feature, and I realized that was like a COVID production, so I understand why it was that way. But double feature is the only one that I was like, no, like there's not enough. It could have been 2 separate seasons, and they would have been cool. And then, but like it wasn't enough to like get me drawn in and feel resolved at the end, I feel like.
Thank you. Richard-Lael?
Well, you know, I have to admit, I'm so busy packing that I watched a couple of episodes. I watched a lot of recaps. I didn't get to finish the whole thing. I don't know if it was because I was busy or if it was because I really just didn't want to watch it. I don't know why. I was not into it. And you know, and when I've got so many other things on my mind, it was really hard to get into it. However, I will say that it was really lovely to see what was his name? Leslie Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was really lovely. And it made a little bit of, and I knew him briefly, but he knew people that I knew. And when I encountered him, I was dressed as a 7-foot tall rabbit. And it was Leslie Jordan, and I went to him and I leaned over and I whispered a line from Sordid Lives. I'm not going to say the line because this is a family-friendly show, but it's the one where he's leaving the asylum and he yells at the security guard, "Can you smell now?" That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say to that. And I lean over, I say this line to him, and he says, "Oh my Lord, how did you know that film? That was so long ago."
The impression is perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
And I loved it that when Jessica Lange enters the room and they've been summoned, and she says, "Hello, you old queen. What was it? You bitter old queen," or something along the lines. Just it made me cackle.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm going to go next because I really liked it. Again, I'm not a big TV watcher, so Courtney, to speak to you, I hardly saw any of the other seasons. And this week I watched this one, and I would only, because this one was the witchy one, I watched this one more than any of the others before that. But I watched them, within a few days straight through. And I didn't get bored or anything like that because it was that day in the life and watching it. It always kept interesting. And like everybody's saying, Jessica Lange is so amazing. I think the entire cast, how can you not? And the richness of how the sets and everything and the color and the place and all that. It was just, again, it was art, and then they'd go do something like slice of a snake or a goat, and I just can't handle that. I just can't handle the animal thing. I really can't. I have to, like a child, hide my eyes. It was great. Weird representations, great representations, bad representations. And for entertainment's sake and there's a little bit from a horror perspective point of view of witches. I should watch a couple of witches are in that season too. Oh, okay. I'll watch that one too. I only watched.
Don't watch that one.
Don't watch. We're going back and forth. I had a bunch of other things I was going to say, but I can't remember they were. But I only remember one quote ever. Oh, the quote. My only quote is, "Don't make me drop a house on you." I love that.
I have a list.
I love the quote where she tells everybody to dress in black. I'm from New York, so that's like just a thing. That's what you do. And so I was like, oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, I know witchy thing. But for me, just getting past just giving you guys stuff, I actually enjoyed it. I have not seen the other episodes because when this came out, I was over my head watching witchcraft movies. So there was no time for me to watch the other episodes. And I just, with kids and everything, I never went back to American Horror Story. And I do love horror. So I don't have a comparison in terms of the other episodes of American Horror Story, but I do enjoy this. And I did enjoy it. Is it my favorite TV show ever? No, of course not. Although I do absolutely love Jessica Lange. But like I've often said on this show is that a lot of the TV shows, and from a film historian perspective, from a student of pop culture witchcraft and the representation, this TV show is very important. And it's just like some other ones that are way worse than this, in terms of, I will never watch some of the TV shows that I've seen again, unless we review them here, or movies. But this one is entertaining enough, it's the way they were able to pull so many pieces and tidbits of witchcraft lore from all over, whether it's Salem's history. No, they didn't get everything right, but they didn't burn witches. They didn't say Salem burned witches, which is always the biggest complaint. And Courtney, I just have to tell you that Salem residents, and I don't know if I've told you this in the past, but Salem residents in the 1910s were writing into the newspaper when any movie about Salem hit the screens. And this is black and white, 1910s, 1920s. They would write in complaining. There's actually production documents about that particular fact. I'll have to share them with you some point, because
that's what I do now. Yeah, that's
Salem residents were on it with Hollywood way back for 100 years ago. But they pulled the tidbits in. They were able to capture the conflict and the diversity of witchcraft that no other show involving teens has ever done prior. And that's what I focused on in my book for this particular show, is that if we were to compare, for example, Rochelle in The Craft, who was really the first major black witch, teen witch, who wasn't othered, and Queenie in this one, you're looking at a huge step forward in representation. So that's what I focused on in my book, because you look at the way they did this, and there is Queenie at the end there. You're talking about, and I have quotes in my book because I like to quote women of color on this topic, witches of color on this topic. is you're looking at a huge step forward in representation. And these are the pieces that I focus on when I see this movie. And I had fun. I'm going to be completely honest with everyone. I don't like zombies. So the episodes that had zombies, I'm like, I'm out. I am totally out. I don't do zombies.
I'll do zombies
witches.
either.
I hate zombies.
I'm like, I do not do, I'll do vampires. I'll do animal sacrifice, witchcraft. No zombies, thank you.
But you know what? Like
band?
Zoe coming out with the chainsaw with the zombies. I was like, oh, I can do zombies like this.
Yeah, she was great, and the zombies were great zombies. I mean, for so many of them, they were great zombies. I will take zombies any day over animal sacrifice.
Well, I don't do zombies because I lived in Hollywood.
Oh,
Boom, boom, boom.
are you saying Patty's a zombie? Because that's just not true.
No, because
Look out!
I have to say is that I don't know how many years ago, Hollywood came to Atlanta, and it was a big thing. And so I was doing some background work, and I got asked to be a zombie in one of the first episodes of The Walking Dead. And they gave me the thing and said, come be a zombie. And I was like, absolutely not. I am not doing it. I am not going to be a zombie. I just can't be involved in zombies. Sorry.
I one of the big premieres, this was years ago, and it was one of the big zombie movies that were funny, and I can't even think who was in it. I don't know. My brain's gone. But I was hired to be a zombie at Grauman's Chinese on the red carpet, and we kind of were the zombie version of the people. I actually was the queen as a zombie. Queen and zombie. The then real queen of England and a zombie. And we were like walking around in the red carpet. And we'd get behind the celebrities who were on the carpet. And this is what they wanted us to do, and just be behind them. And the poor paparazzis were like, move away, zombie, move away. It was so fun.
Oh, Jason Zombie.
And then I kept imitating the poses of the cute little girls on the carpet.
That's awesome. That is awesome. But this actually came out on the heels of the popularity of zombies. So it's not, they threw that in too. And that's the crazy part of this actual series, this Coven, is that they were throwing in so much. And sometimes that can really be a detriment, where it goes, okay, this and this, and it's like everything but the kitchen sink. But it actually worked. And now the zombies, I think the zombies worked only because voodoo is largely been connected, and Vodun and Haitian voodoo have been connected to the zombie pop culture phenomenon to their detriment. And so there is a legit connection, magical connection, religious connection, but of course Hollywood and pop culture
and
have
Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Yeah, there is but and that's a study that I'm working on right now. So that's a whole nother thing on that connection and the representation of voodoo. But the zombie piece is connected legitimately. It wasn't just like, okay, well, it's popular, let's throw it in because it's horror. So that is connected, and they did actually throw in just a ton of different things, which is fascinating. Oh, I see that. Oh, I see that. And they did that too.
Some of them, though, are so garbled, though, as to be offensive. So when this show came out, I was working on a workshop about magic in America for like 1820 to 1950. That's really inconsequential. But part of it was about Marie Laveau, because Marie Laveau, it was not just a real person. Marie Laveau is also a figure of folklore, but importantly, she was a real person. And having Angela Bassett play Marie Laveau, fantastic. Angela Bassett is great.
Absolutely.
Angela Bassett is always the best part of anything that Angela Bassett is in, even the Black Panther movies. However,
that's true.
To turn Marie Laveau into somebody who steals babies for immortality, Marie Laveau, who was, by all accounts, a very good woman, is maybe this is why I hate this show so much sometimes, because that portrayal makes, you can tell I'm a little mad. It makes me angry. She was a real person. She deserves to be treated better than this. There is nothing historical about that representation of Marie Laveau.
And Jason, I'm completely going to echo this, and this is what I was going to say a few minutes ago, is that the biggest problem that I have in if I step out of the film historian, entertainment category and just look at it from a witchcraft perspective, witchcraft is not treated positively at all. All witchcraft, all witches, and whether it's voodoo magic or the Salem magic or however they are all treated like a bunch of vindictive women. They don't, and all the magic, with the exception of a few instances, is negative. It's it's angry, it's violent, it's and that aspect of it, we can chalk it up to entertainment and horror. But that is, problematic. That is problematic in representation. If we were just to, dice it out. There are advances in representation, as I noted, but that is a problem. Exactly what you're saying. That is a problem, and it gets frustrating. I'm like, these people, they did more than just, slice and dice.
And I also, on a side note, I was pretty offended by the portrayal of Papa Legba as sort of evil demonic entity. And voodoo is a closed practitioner. You have to be initiated into it. I'm not. However, I do have a great respect for voodoo. I have a great respect for the religion of voodoo. And I actually have encountered Papa Legba. This is before I moved from Pasadena. I always did rituals at the crossroads. And one evening, I went out for a walk, and this crow was flying with the car. I went out for a drive, and then I went out for a walk later. The crow went with the car, and I went, that is so bizarre. And then I went out for an evening walk, and I walk around. I come back to the crossroads where I was, and right down the middle of the street is a man of color with dreadlocks, with a tall straw hat. He's got a bottle with him, and he's dragging a cart. And he looks at me, and it's like midnight in Pasadena, little old Pasadena. And this man does not have any pupils. He doesn't have any, and there's no iris. His eyes are white, and they shone at me. And when I saw him, I was taken aback, and I was with a friend, and I said, let's just go. Let's get in the house, because that man is not. That's not a person. That's a Loa. That's Papa Legba. So, in my interactions with him, he's always been a gentleman. I would not think that he would be someone who would demand the sacrifice of babies.
When we were watching the show, I was complaining about the Papa Legba depiction with my wife, and my wife just said, "Don't worry, they'll pay for that, Jason." And so I took some solace in that while I was watching the show. But I mean, they really tried to turn Papa Legba into the Christian devil, and it's really unfair. And I think Heather's talked about this on our show before. And if a religion's going to be vilified, it's almost always voodoo.
Yeah, and this is the study that I just began, and I keep mentioning it, and it's going to be a long way off because I have to do it in between all the other things I do. But this is the next thing, because when I wrote the witchcraft book, the representation of voodoo and Vodun and Vodou and all the variations of the ATRs, and ATR stands for African Tradition Religion, that we experience here in the United States, that are part of our culture. They have been terribly maligned since day one, and I could give you the history of when that started. It was around the 30s, and you can see that, and I mention it here and there in the book because it's and someone asked, well, why didn't you include it? Because that deserves its own book, for the very reasons we're talking about it, and that's what I've started. And so the progression and the representation of voodoo and magic and religion from Haiti or from other regions that practice that have ATRs as a center, or New Orleans voodoo, as we call it, are only recently, probably in the past 10 years, really starting to be represented as a positive type of magic, and that includes hoodoo as well. in this TV show, we see it represented strongly within the concept of oppression and racism, which is unique, which is something. But it is not representative. It's not represented, like you guys say, as something that is not angry or that is very negative and violent, just like witchcraft from Salem is the same type of witchcraft. It's all representative as vindictive, angry, and violent. And is that a function? Again, that's a question I have. Is it a function of being a horror show, or is it just, what they did? But that's what that's what disappointed me. We didn't see the more positive aspects of voodoo, the peaceful stuff, the healing, the family, the culture, as well as the witchcraft. We don't ever really see that. And that's what I would have liked to see a little bit more, just to balance it out.
Absolutely. And even Heather, on that point of seeing more of the healing, Queenie she says she's a human voodoo doll, and she stabs herself with a fork, and it prevents this other witch, Montgomery, which is funny for many reasons. Elizabeth Montgomery, it's funny, but she stabs herself with a fork, and she's, oh yeah, well, I'm a human voodoo doll. How does that really work? Number one. And number two, when one would have a voodoo doll, typically you would go to the practitioner and you would say, my neck really hurts right here. And so you would have a voodoo doll of yourself that would be representational of you. And they would take a pin, and that's not the pin I was after, but they would take a pin and they would put it in that voodoo doll so that they could focus that energy into that point. So then you would go back to the voodoo practitioner and they would say, oh, actually my neck feels better now. Now it's my left leg. Okay, well, let's put a pin there. We'll focus some energy on that. We'll change the energy around. So really that's the whole purpose of the voodoo doll. It's not some 1930s horror thing. And Patty's got her voodoo doll.
That's
Puppet.
This is a puppet. Yeah, I just made this from a napkin the other day. It's a napkin, but I could stick things in it.
I think it's interesting, and I think the sharing of there she is doing the symbols and the rituals. She is so beautiful in everything she does. The scenes with her are fantastic. And I love the depictions. I love that they were doing veves. I obviously am not a practitioner of voodoo, so I couldn't speak whether what she was doing with the veves were correct. I think we would have to turn to someone like Lilith Dorsey, who lives in New Orleans, and let's just give her a shout out, Lilith Dorsey, Voodoo Universe. She runs a blog. She's got a lot of books on voodoo. She's brilliant and a wonderful person. She would be the person who could tell us, along with a lot of other people who could tell us whether those veves were correct. But that was pretty cool to have that stuff in there. I don't feel like they depicted the Salem witchcraft British style magic as authentically or with as much depth. Most of that was just, I'm going to light something on fire. I'm going to make something move. You didn't really see the ceremony and ritual like you did. And that's an interesting point.
Yeah, that is good. I will ask Lilith. I'm going to see her in a week and a half at Hexfest. Awesome. Yay, can't wait.
She's great. And she also went to NYU film school, so she knows a lot about movies too. So ask her.
I will.
I will say, when it comes to, just to switch gears for a second, when it comes to American Horror Story and having all of these little bits and pieces, little bits and bobs of everything all over the place, I feel like that's what the whole thing is. Like, every season, it's like you're in a tornado, like what is happening, and there's a new thing, and there's a new thing, and there's a new thing, and then sometimes they all come back together, and other times they don't, or we forget about them or whatever. And I think it's just like, I just want to clarify too, like, this was not my favorite season, but it definitely wasn't my least favorite season. Like, don't watch Apocalypse because that was terrible. But
Apocalypse has Anton LaVey in it. It's actually kind of fun, but yes.
I think it was the worst one.
I kind of liked it. I'm with you, Jason. I kind of liked it, but I really loved Hotel. Because Hotel
was good.
I had just finished playing on television. I had just finished playing H.H. Holmes, so
amazing.
It was kind of nice to see.
I gave up on it, like Jason, I think it was you who said that you gave up on it a little bit, but like, I watched the first one, I watched Asylum, I watched Coven, Hotel Freak Show, I thought were all great, Roanoke, and then Cult went downhill for me. I think that was a little too raw and a little too real for the time that it came out. And then Apocalypse lost me entirely, and I couldn't understand. And then by the time 1985 came out, I did not want to watch it at all, and I didn't watch it like a year or so later. And 1985 actually ended up, I think because I had no expectations of it whatsoever, being one of my favorite seasons too. But it was, I love that. Like, maybe it's my ADHD. I don't know. I love it when they throw every single thing at me. It's all different. It's all something new. I never know where it's going. And then the little connections happen throughout the way. Like, I think that captures my interest in a great way. Or 1984. Sorry. Thank you. But yeah, I think that's one of my favorite things as a fan of this series is that, you know, that's how it's done. And I think watching it from the beginning through, the first time watching it through, Coven grabbed my attention more than it did this time, because it was like, oh, who are the actors going to play, and what are their characters going to be, and like, where is this going to go? And it was intriguing in that way, but rewatching it, I feel like felt different.
My wife has watched all of them, so even when I was not interested in a particular season, I was there the whole time because I had no choice. You know, so I feel like I have a pretty reasonable like handle on the show, you know, and really the reason I think most of us watch it is because of the casting and because of the acting in the show. I mean, I think when I was reading a lot of reviews of Coven, you always read the phrase "chew the scenery." You know, Jessica Lange and Angela Bassett are chewing the scenery. And even when I don't like a story on American Horror Story, or I, you know, don't like where things are going, I still appreciate the acting behind it all because it's so good. And it's so much fun to see how versatile all of these people are in these shows, whether it's Sarah Paulson or Angela Bassett or Jessica Lange or whatever. And in Coven, we got Catherine and Jimmy. I mean, it's a plethora of riches. And Evan Peters, I love Evan Peters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Peters gives them range too. Like they get to exercise that range every season and do crazy things, and I love that for them.
And Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates is brilliant.
Kathy Bates, not Kathy and Jimmy. I've screwed up. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kathy Bates did not look like Madame Delphine Lillard in the least. There was no way she looked like her.
She's brilliant.
She was so brilliant. And I loved that sort of her punishment was that she got to watch The Magic Box with a black president. And she was forced to be Queenie's maid, her personal maid. I thought that was just desserts. Yes, someone asks about H.H. Holmes. I was on a show called Elevator, where it was a game show. So we would take people to the slaughterhouse in LA, and then we would decorate the whole thing, 3 floors of horror. And then we would tell them a horror ghost story, and then we would stop the elevator, we'd say, "Get out." And then they would have to go through this sort of gauntlet of just horror things coming at them. And we did an episode on the murder castle of H.H. Holmes. And so I was cast as as this serial killer, H.H. Holmes. And one of the funniest things I remember is that I had come downstairs. We had murdered off the other two people, and this woman is sent out into the darkness. And then they're saying, "Andrea, go to the next light. She says, no. Andrea, go to the next light." And they shut the light off. So she has no choice. Now she's in the dark. So she goes to the next light, and I come down the stairs and I'm humming Beautiful Dreamer, but in a horrible way. And I'm carrying this bucket of bones, and she drops it. She says, no, Lord Jesus, no. And they again, "Andrea, go towards the light. I know that creepy man is there. No way. She goes into the game and she wins. And then she comes back out. They blindfold her so that she has to run back through to the gauntlet. She comes back around the corner, and I'm standing in the corner with a bone saw. And as she was headed back to the elevator, I go, and then the final round was she had to go through this maze and collect all the money. and she was alone. All of her her teammates were all killed off. And I hear her screaming the entire time, ah, 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 ah! And I'm laughing. I can't help it. And she comes through the tunnel and she collapses. And I'm standing there laughing because it's funny. And she's fallen on her face. And she gets up and she makes it back to the elevator in just the nick of time as the clock ticks down. And then they yell, cut. Okay, they played the game. And then they had to go back through and pick up shots of where she, because they played the game for real, and then they did pickup shots. And I said, "Oh, go on."
I was just gonna say, you're talking about the show, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this sounds fantastic. Like I would watch. I watched this when it was.
Yeah, I was on 2 seasons of that show. Anyway, wow. So she comes back to the. I tell her. I said, Andrea, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to laugh at you. What was so scary? And she says, well, first there was that woman came crawling out at me like a spider, and then there you were laughing at me, and you were scary. Well, yes, I played H.H. Holmes on that, and then the next year, they did American Horror Story Hotel. So it was kind of nice to see another portrayal based on the serial killer H.H. Holmes from the 19th century.
Love it. Can I tell you guys my favorite quote from Coven?
Yes, yeah. you have many quotes, I'm sure.
I have multiple for sure, but my absolute favorite, because I hate the phrase "man up." I hate that. But in this one, they say "witch up," and I was like, yes, like I want that tattooed on my face. Like I think that's amazing. So that one was my favorite. I have a couple other ones. This Coven doesn't need a new Supreme; it needs a new rug. When she killed her on the rug.
That's a good one.
And then I also, for Heather's benefit, wrote, of course, the doll attic. Which was my favorite part. Your fashion faux pas gives me nightmares. And then another kind of strong quote for me was, the only thing in this whole wide wicked world that you have to be afraid of is me. I thought that was awesome.
That's a good quote.
I have to chime in about the doll situation in this movie. I tell you what, there's several things that distracted me outside of, the film historian person and all that stuff that I've already mentioned. When they go up and show the big closet of dolls, I was literally wanting to, and I didn't because I had to, back then I wasn't thinking about it, and rewatching it, I didn't have time, but to stop it, I'm like, ooh, is that an Arambe doll? Oh, wait a minute. Is that a Madame Alexander? Oh, wait a minute. I want all those dolls. Like, I was like so having doll envy for that closet. I was all with that. That just totally took me out of the movie. And I'm like, dreams come true, but not the teapots and not all the other stuff, just the actual dolls. I'm not doing tea parties with my dolls. I've already been warned by my partner that if he comes home to a tea party with all the dolls, he's going to turn around and go back to his office and maybe not come back.
I do tea parties with my dolls.
Well, you know what, Richard-Lael, I think that's so wonderful. And we'll talk about that another time because that is good.
Do you dress like a baby while you do it though?
I absolutely do not. Oh, him. Oh, Richard-Lael. Yeah.
Do you see me? This is how I always dress.
Right. Whether I'm a little bit different.
Whether I'm underneath my Mr. Satan car or whether I'm checking the mail, this is how I dress.
Well, Richard-Lael, I had 5 baby dolls in the freezer the other day in parts with other things, and so my children would open the freezer door to get something out, ice cream, and there were bagged like dolls parts in the freezer getting clean. Don't worry, Patti, they were getting cleaned.
In a freezer? Do you put dolls in a? I'm a doll. Why?
It's putting things in freezers kills bacteria. So you can put pillows in freezers to kill bacteria in stuffed animals, in pillows. It kills bacteria and stuff. So if you get a stuffed animal, you put it in the freezer.
You know what also does? soap. You can also wash things.
No, you can't wash
Until-
everything. So
The-
freezers?
Does the freezer also give it an exorcism?
No.
Oh,
That it does not. It just kills the bacteria. It doesn't kill. It doesn't
not the
remove the
ghost.
spirit.
I mean, as we sit here right now, Not a Doll is winking at the Richard-Lael
Yeah.
trailer.
See,
Don't
not
you
put me in the
don't you
freezer.
call attention? No, don't you call attention to that.
That
So-
is funny.
Ugh.
The other thing that came to my mind, that shot into my mind during this, which is kind of gets back to they threw everything but the kitchen sink in this, and I was mentioning this earlier, how they capture the witchcraft related to women's conditions and causes and concerns. They really did a really good job of what I call bringing in the Lifetime for Women subject matter into this really quick on, which I always joke about, because if you're going to make a Lifetime for Women movie, you got to have issues with birth and pregnancy, cancer, love, and teenage girls. And, so they did all of that within 2 episodes. You had someone with cancer, someone struggling to get pregnant and having problems with their husband, teenage girls struggling with each other, and then women fighting. I'm like, they just hit Lifetime for Women, like movie, get on. I'm like, pow. So, most witchcraft movies don't hit all of those points. Oh, and aging. There you go. Add that one into the bucket.
Aging
Pow,
was
we
good.
got
I
that
love
one
that.
into the bucket. Aging issues, beauty issues. They hit every single subject matter that Hollywood likes to put in a movie for women. Lifetime should have done this. It was a life. I'm sorry. I just was laughing. I'm like, oh, cancer. Got that one in. Okay, we're good.
Minus the blood. Minus the blood.
And witchcraft movies always do relate to Hollywood, in Hollywood language and Hollywood's tradition, relate to women's issues, whether it's aging, beauty, all the stuff. And I do lectures about this, but this one, like I said, brought every single piece in. Every single possible thing that is in a Lifetime for Women movie was put here. So
and Stevie Nicks. And Stevie
Nicks.
Stevie
And look, and the fashion, you have all the fashions women could possibly ever want. All in one. So it really is.
And you just needed Judith Light, and then it would have hit all of the Lifetime movie tropes right there. Just was waiting for that.
That's funny.
Yeah. If we had feminism and issues of slavery, leaving your man getting taken away from you, suffrage, women being murdered, raped. You had rape in the first or second episode. Every single thing that a Hollywood movie does Hollywood does to a woman's movie, let's call it that for better or worse, was in Coven.
Right. Maybe that's why you and I liked it better than everybody else, but Courtney didn't like it as so much. But I don't know.
I liked it. I just didn't love it. It wasn't, but I'm spoiled because I've seen all of the other ones, and that's the difference, I think, is that there's better. All of those people, as fantastic as they all are, they've done better. Like the story has been better. I feel like it could have easily been one of my favorites, but it didn't live up to the bar that was set before that.
Well, the storytelling is one thing. I'm just talking about the pieces they threw into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it's too much. And, throwing all these things in one thing can be too much. You don't have to capture every single trauma and issue that women in modern society face to create a movie that is meaningful about women and magic at all. Mm-hmm. They did that with everything. They did that with the magic, the representation of witchcraft. It was like they took everything, they got a big basket and said, let's do it. Everything more. Oh, over here. Let's get that in. What more? Hold on.
They did all that and they forgot the plot. Like they did all that and they did the plot was the same every episode. It felt like it was who is Fiona trying to kill now, and
Well, there were so many great ideas. I mean, it could have been a show about the school for students learning witchcraft. There's no schooling going on at that school. That would have been a really great show. The only time it's an academy is in some flashbacks. there's a whole subplot with witch hunters for 2 seasons, which could have been an entire season in and of itself, and it gets resolved really quickly and is not as interesting as it could have been. It always felt like they were setting up the voodoo practitioners to kind of battle the witches, and then they kind of forget that midway through. And I think that's one of the problems with the show is like you have this stew and there's just too much stuff in it. Like you can overdo things, and that's what they did.
Too much salt.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like a lot of salt. More is
not
more.
enough. Not enough soap. Too much freezer.
Wait a minute. You don't clean things in the freezer. You put them in there to kill living bacteria when they're stuck in your pillows and stuffed animals. These dolls could not be washed. They had to be put in there to kill the mold that was on them. Okay. I'm not cleaning my dishes in the freezer.
Is it the ectoplasm? Is it the ectoplasm you have to get off?
No, there's no ectoplasm. No ectoplasm.
And is that the freezer that your family's food goes in?
No, it's the other freezer. No, it's the other freezer.
Is it the body
doll freezer?
Yeah, we won't talk about what else is in that freezer. How's that?
You know, I want to tell you. Speaking of which, I love my men like I like my coffee, ground a bit and stored in the freezer. I love men like I like my tea, tied in a bag and stuffed underwater.
Note to self: don't visit Richard-Lael.
like whiskey aged in a barrel.
All whiskey's aged in a barrel.
Wait a minute. So I have support here from the thing. Dust mites. You want dust mites out of your stuffed animals? You have kids. This is a note from a mother of children. You have stuffed animals get dust mites and a bacteria. You want to clean them, wash them, stick them in the freezer. It kills them. Dust mites, pillows, all that stuff. That is what I'm doing, y'all. This was not some kind of like ectoplasm spell.
But I also want the ghosts out. So how do I do that?
You want the ghosts out? We can talk about that offline. We'll talk about the ritual for that, Courtney.
We can talk about that.
You better watch. Not a doll is listening.
I know.
I'm more worried about the Richard-Lael pillow coming to life. That's what frightens me. I can't keep my eyes off of it during the show.
That is true. That
is one sexy devil whose home I'm never visiting.
His eyes are red. It's the best.
He is good. All right. Well, I think we've talked this through. Go on.
I made a mistake and I got this. So this is the most frightening thing that I own, I think, because this is from a video game that I play. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll support the developer. I'll buy their special plush. And then this came and I was like, I regret every decision I've ever made. And I wish that I was not so impulsive. So he's such a
You torture yourself, Courtney.
I do. It's my own fault. It's my own fault.
All right. Well, I guess it is time to vote. One's up, one's down, one's neutral, or all those places in the middle. And all of you guys are really active and fabulous today in the chat room. What do you think, American Horror Story Coven? One's up, one's down.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, up, neutral. Wow, that's pretty good. Better than I thought it was going to be.
The performances are so good. The way this show looks is so good. I can't give it a thumbs down, even though I have problems with it because of those factors. Right. And if you've ever been to New Orleans, they shot some of this in New Orleans, and it really shows. And it's fun to watch.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
I love New Orleans.
We got wands up. We got horns up. We got sideways. We got everything. Thank you, guys. Well, we do know what we're going to watch next week, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
I'm so excited. So different from this. Maybe not. Maybe not, though. We don't know.
The Muppets Wizard of Oz. So everybody's got to go look up, find your streaming service for The Muppets Wizard of Oz. Less killing snakes, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. One's up. So that is for next Wednesday. And everybody have anything coming up that they want to talk about, where they're going to be or anything like that? And if you guys, again, hi, Cindy, hi, Tabitha, hi, everybody in the thing. If you guys have things you want to suggest to us, suggest. We will, if the witchy movies and TV shows you guys want to see. So what do you have? Anything coming on for you, Courtney?
Not a lot right now. I will be in a little bit after this, probably around 10:30, 10:45-ish tonight, Eastern Standard Time. I'll be on Twitch playing some ghost hunting games with some friends, scaring the crap out of myself and screaming. So that's always a fun time if you want to play along. So that's the themes on Twitch. And that's about it. Other than that, I'm enjoying my summer vacation, and I'm loving having time to watch all these witchy movies.
Okay, thank you. Richard-Lael.
I will be in Atlanta on the 2nd for the Debauchery Ball, where I get to meet the amazing Heather Greene. I will be in Youngstown, Ohio at the end of October, but in 3 days I'm moving to New Orleans. So watch out. The Big Easy has nothing on this Big Easy.
I think that's the t-shirt quote for the night.
Okay, Jason.
I will be at the Sacred Harvest Festival in Minnesota the second full week of August. So it's coming right up in 2 weeks. And I see a shout out says, please check out Sin City Witches. That's the Vegas Witches. They do a lot of stuff. They're great. I will be at Las Vegas Pagan Pride November 11th, I think, that weekend. So I'm really excited about that too. Always traveling, keeping me away from my favorite coven.
Well, you can do it somewhere sometimes when you're away.
Sometimes when I don't get yelled at by people like I did 2 weeks ago.
All right, Heather.
I have no travel plans. I am in Atlanta doing my normal thing. I get to work with on a daily basis wonderful witchy authors. Please go to my Facebook, Twitter, and my website, and you can see which books I worked on. I'm still trying to update my website, but I'm so busy with my authors. We've got some really good books coming out for witches and witchcraft and all that stuff. So I always post what I'm working on there, as well as my own stuff. But school here starts in 1 week. And I've got children. Courtney just looked up like, what? Yes.
It's too soon.
Yeah, school here. So, and I still have children. So I am here home in my home office doing stuff, coming here this is my big thing, is coming here every week to be with my coven here, and then doing, of course, my journalism. So check out my website if you want to see what I'm working on, and reach out to me on social media.
Perfect. Thank you. Somebody brought up Mayfair Witches. Did we do Mayfair Witches, or we haven't?
We did.
Yeah.
We did Mayfair.
Okay, so yeah. All right, I am going to be seeing Richard-Lael. I'm going to be at Hacks Fest in New Orleans, August 11th through 14th. Then I'm going to be filming in the same area. Then I'm going to be at Michigan Paracon, August 24th through the 27th. I'm doing a whole witchy weekend in Albuquerque, New Mexico in September, and also have Massachusetts Mass Paracon in September. And then October, all hell breaks loose. Or heaven, or everything else in between. And I'm everywhere. So same thing, website, pattinegri.com. You could find my real social medias. You can find where I'm going to be legitimately. And I think that's it. So, we have 2 minutes. We cannot cackle for 2 minutes.
You're gonna love Hex Fest though. It's really fun. You're gonna have a good time.
My first time. I'm really excited. I'm surprised. Most people don't have it. I've got 3 workshops and a panel, and I'm vending, and
it's a lot of work.
You were super we promoted your power panties at Mystic South, and they were a big hit. I mean, I don't know if anyone bought any because I didn't go around and take a survey, but it was the talk of the town. People were chatting about it. So just to let you know that know if your ears were buzzing a little bit, but power panties were a subject at Mystic South this past 2 weeks ago now.
Well, I'm just getting ready to make some postcards, hopefully less blurry than my 28,000 postcards I made for this show and everything else. But I'm getting ready to make some postcards. And I will have those. So yeah, Patty's Power Panties, change your underwear, change your life. Yep. That's what my new postcard is going to be. So cute.
And I did some modeling, and yet I did not make the postcard. It's very sad.
Well, you haven't sent the pictures of your power panties.
Yeah, I think they've been burned by certain parties. Just for the betterment of society, but I will send more.
I love a picture of power panties. All right. Thank you, everybody. Please tell your friends about us if they like us going in witchy movies. We always agree on everything. No, we never
Always.
agree on anything. And that's what's good about life, isn't it? When you can happily disagree and laugh. And one more thing that we do besides laugh. What do witches do? 1, 2, 3.